and girls, today we're going to take our notes and their partner rests, and we're going to see how they fit into different time signatures in clapping and saying our rhythm patterns. We're starting off with a time signature of 2-4. What that means, the 2, the number on the top, tells you how many beats are going to be in every measure. So in this piece of music, no matter how many measures we have, there will only be 2 beats in every measure. A measure is made up of the area between the bar lines. So the bar line will divide, and then a new measure will begin. And in every one of the measures, there has to be 2 beats. This 4 on the bottom simply tells us that it is the quarter note that gets the beat. So looking at measure 1, we have our quarter note. Quarter note is worth 1 beat, and in each measure we must have 2 beats. So in counting this measure, the first quarter note is beat 1. And since a quarter note is worth 1 beat, it's going to take up the whole entire first beat of that measure. Then we move to the next quarter note. Again, it is worth 1 beat. But that quarter note is second in the measure, and so it will be beat 2. So I have 2 beats in this measure. If I am working in 2-4 time, 2 is the biggest number I will ever count. I will not go on to 3 because my time signature tells me only 2 beats can be in each measure, or must be in each measure. So in the first measure, my rhythm simply sounds like this. 1, 2. Each rhythm is worth 1 whole beat by itself. When we cross the bar line, we start counting again. We do not continue. Remember, we will not say a number higher than 2. So when we cross the bar line, we're back at beat 1 of that measure. Beat 1 of this second measure, we have 2 eighth notes. Eighth notes, if you remember, are worth half of a beat. So this eighth note is worth the first half of beat 1, and then this eighth note is worth the other half of beat 1. When eighth notes are sharing a beat, we simply say the number, what the beat is, and then the word and for the second half. Since this is sitting in beat 1 of this measure, we would count it as 1 and. And again, it's going to be short sounds because each of the eighth notes only get to say its name for half of that beat. Then we move to the second beat of the measure. It happens to be a rest. Rests again are silent, but they are worth a beat, or however many beats that rest is worth. Here we have a quarter rest. A quarter rest is worth 1 beat. We have beat 1 of this measure, so our quarter rest is beat 2. So in clapping this measure, it would sound like this. 1 and 2. So putting this whole piece together, using 2-4 time, 2 beats per measure, the quarter beat getting the beat. To clap this 2-measure piece of music, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 1 and 2. Now we're going to move to 4-4 time. In 4-4 time, again, the top number tells us how many beats are in a measure. Last time that number was a 2, but this time it is a 4. So that's telling us in every one of our measures, we must have 4 beats. The bottom number again is a 4, just like last time, and that tells us that our quarter note is going to get the beat. So if we look at measure 1, we have a whole note in measure 1. A whole note is worth 4 beats. So by putting that whole note in that measure, it takes up, that one note takes up all 4 beats for that measure. We cannot add anything else to that measure. The whole note, when it makes its sound on beat 1, and it carries that sound for 4 beats in total. So in this measure, our 4 beats are all taken up with by that whole note. 1, 2, 3, 4. All 4 beats are in that whole note. And again, we would count and say 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to take one sound and carry it for the 4 beats. Once we cross the bar line, our counting begins again. Now in this example, you will not say a higher number than 4 because that is the amount of beats that must be in each measure. Not 5, not 3, it must be 4. So in looking at measure 2, we start off with our half rest. Remember, it looks like the hat on top of someone's head. A half rest is worth 2 beats. It is silent because it is a rest, but again, our rests do count 4 beats. So that counts for beat 1 and 2 of this second measure. 2 beats of silence. Our next note or rhythm in this measure is a half note. A half note is worth the same amount of beats as its partner. It is worth 2 beats also. This half note, since it is second in the measure, is worth beats 3 and 4. If I were to clap and say just this measure, it would look and sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for the 2 silent notes or beats, we had the rest. But then the half note, we made the sound and carried it for that beat. So to clap and say this whole piece of music, it would sound and look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, boys and girls, we're going to move on to 6/8 time. 6/8 time, boys and girls, is a little different than 2/4 and 4/4. 2/4 time is even. 1, 2, 1, 2. 4/4 time is also even. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But when we get to 6/8 time, not only has our top number changed, it is now 6. And yes, we are going to have 6 beats in every one of our measures. But also our bottom number has changed. The 4 in music on the bottom always stands for the quarter note. Now we have an 8. The 8 stands for an eighth note. So now in 6/8 time, we are going to have 6 beats in each measure, and it is the 8th note that is going to get the beat. In this first measure, we can see there are quite a few 8th notes, but there is also a quarter note. Another thing about 6/8 time is that it is not even, like 2/4 and 4/4. 6/8 time is counted in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is an uneven feeling. And so when looking at measure 1, our 8th note is going to get the beat. So this first 8th note is going to be beat 1. The second 8th note will be beat 2. The third 8th note will be beat 3. But then we come to a quarter note. It takes 2 8th notes to equal 1 quarter note. So if we are in 6/8 time and we come to a quarter note, that's actually, there are 2 8th notes in there. So that means there are going to be 2 beats assigned to this 1 quarter note. So this quarter note is going to be beat 4 and beat 5. And then again we come to an 8th note. So that would be beat 6. So in clapping this measure, we will have that uneven feeling. And 2 of our beats are going to be taken up by this quarter note. So it will sound and look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So beat 4 and 5 were taken up by that quarter note. Now let's look at measure 2. Measure 2 has a quarter note, and we found out a quarter note actually has 2 eighth notes in it. That's what makes it up. So we have 2 beats for that quarter note. So since we're in a new measure, we start over with our counting at beat 1. So this quarter note will be beat 1 and beat 2. We come to an eighth note. It is our eighth note that is getting the beat. So that is going to be worth 1 beat, beat 3. We come to another quarter note. So we have 2 eighth notes in there. So that means that's going to be worth 2 beats. It's going to be beat 4 and beat 5. And then finally we end up with one last eighth note, which is going to be beat 6. So again, in counting and saying this measure, we're going to get that uneven feeling. But this measure is going to sound and look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So together, if we do both measures, counting and saying them together, we will really get that uneven feel as we're saying and clapping it. And it would sound and look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So boys and girls, again, with our rhythms, when we put them into music, we are looking at our time signature. The top number is going to tell us how many beats are in every measure, and the bottom number will tell us what note gets the beat.